Co-cultural theory. The theory focuses on situations when cultural diversity is perceived as significant and centralizes the lived experience of co-cultural group members. Co-cultural theory focuses on one central question. How can members of co-cultural groups utilize communication to negotiate their cultural identities with others both similar and unlike to themselves? In a societal setting where they have historically been marginalized, six elements identified as key to the selection of specific co-cultural practices through discovery-oriented qualitative research: area of experience, talents, perceived cost and benefits, communication strategy, desirable outcome, and situational context. Co-cultural theory has been recognized as a basic theory for those interested in understanding the interaction of culture, power, and communication since its conception. Orbe and colleagues laid the groundwork for the theory by investigating the communicative lived experience of underrepresented group members in the United States. The earliest research focused on communication between co-cultural groups defined by race, ethnicity, gender, socioeconomic status, disability, and sexual orientation. We picked this theory because it is particularly applicable to the circumstance that our group was given, which is to investigate how people with disabilities voted in the 2022 election. Thank you.
So to put it into a bigger perspective and a wider view of the co-cultural theory, we have to uh, apply it on the 2022 election campaign into a designated sector, which is the PWDs, and what we have to see their roles during this campaign. So we all know that PWDs are part of the minority or the less dominant culture, as what they call it, and the electoral campaign is actually a very telling scenario because most of the minorities are actively joining this campaign to fight for their inclusivity and their representation. So uh, there are three communication orientation, which Ulbricht defined as, which is a term that Ulbricht used to describe a co-cultural group's member preferred outcome pursued through the communication approach he or she chooses to achieve that goal. So there are three goals, which is the assimilation, accommodation, and the separation. And what happens a lot during these electoral campaigns is the chosen preferred outcome that minority or the PWD chooses is the accommodation. So accommodation as a preferred outcome of communication is rather than following the other guy's rules as those trying to assimilate do, co-cultural members who seek accommodation work at changing the rules to take their own life experiences into account. So we actually see them actively joining this campaign for their representation, and so that um, they actually um, be, be represented well enough in the legislative branch. The good thing is that we may not see them actually communicating a lot, but they are represented by a certain public figure, which is her. Rowena Guanson, which is part of the minority all throughout her life, or part of the non-dominant culture, is representing the many people of the PWDs since she's running in for position in the party list and as a congresswoman. The P3 PWD, which is the Pasyente, Pamilya, and the PWDs. We can actually see her get her way of communicating within the dominant culture. And here is a scenario for communicating her needs. So as out-group members adopt their behavior to become more similar that of the dominant culture group, they gain credibility for advocating at least incremental change. So we actually see Rowena Gonson become part of the dominant culture. So she was that can fall under assertive accommodation, which co-cultural members whose abilities and interpersonal skills are valued work cooperatively within the dominant culture, advocating for the needs of both culture. So Rowena Gonson is advocating for the needs of her culture.
Each individual with regards to the differences between religion, races, status in life, etc. This individualistic of human being entire the nation when it comes to the right of voting. I've also seen that PWD sectors have been a strong foundation to foster transparency. Being part of the society, PWDs were seen or has an important role or has the contributing factor when it comes to being aware of their human rights. Others may see PWD's sector as a worse one, but come to think of it, we just need to oversee it from beyond. They are not just a PWDs, but they are more than it, that survive and drive with dynamic culture. It takes one to know. Let us change the stigma. By this, we might cooperate an acronym with PWD. Not just part, but together with diversified. Therefore, do not condemn them, because every individual has the right